The Democrats are in disarray as they try to explain to themselves how they lost so much of the minority vote in this election. The reality of black and Hispanic voters turning out in record numbers for Trump contradicts the narrative they've spewed for the last 4 years that Trump is a white supremacist. After the Horowitz report revealed the corruption in the intelligence agencies, Carter Page is looking to hit them where it hurts and sue James Comey and other FBI officials after their department spied on Page illegally during the campaigning in the last election. And a judge upheld a huge ruling in Pennsylvania blocking the certification of the results after he concluded that the state had acted unconstitutionally by allowing widespread mail-in voting. This is Political, and you're watching our Election 2020 series. Big welcome to everyone joining us today. If you haven't already, please do consider subbing to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you get alert when we release new videos. YouTube certainly won't do that for you when you think about what it is we're talking about. And, of course, leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you think. But share the video, because the mainstream media is never reports on any of this stuff. You won't hear about any of it. Even if you actively go and seek it out, it's incredibly hard. So, Connor, kick us off for today.
So the first of the topics that the mainstream media ignores. What we've got here is an article from Real Clear Politics talking about just how Democrats treat minorities now. Democrats are scrambling to explain away the inroads Republicans have made with minorities, as evidenced in the November election results, historic results. We've never seen anything like this. Instead of listening to the concerns of the black and Hispanic voters who voted for President Trump, after years of being assured that Trump is one of the most racist presidents in history, Democrats are instead blaming them. Some Democrats argue that the support for Mr. Trump is an example of machismo culture, venerating traditional gender roles and a kind of hyper-masculinity that NYT's reported. But Axios admitted the media and many Democrats are fairly clueless about the needs, wants, and trends of Hispanic voters. Top Latinos warned about overlooking and misreading the fastest-growing population in America. Most didn't listen. The same is true of black voters. Trump gained 4 more percentage points of the black vote over his 2016 numbers, yet progressives, such as Chauncey DeVega at Salon, still insist that white supremacy now controls the Republican Party. Now, this actually isn't a Democrat problem. It's a left-wing problem. It's a global left-wing problem, because what they do is they look at minorities, at least in my opinion, as perpetual victims. They look at minorities with such contempt. They see people who can never make anything of themselves, because they are always going to be reduced to the status that the left has attributed to them, which is a disadvantaged minority. They're eternal victims. And left wing can never see the potential and the successes of these people. And you see here in the article, most Latinos reject the regimentation of identity politics. They reject the attendant language, like the term Latinx. Okay, but the left wing kind of tries to blame them anyway. The left wing kind of tries to impose this woke agenda on very working class minorities, and it just isn't popular with them, is it, Ryan?
No, and there's just so many different things at play here, I think. A lot of it stems back to identity politics. Obviously, if you think of these people as a group, I mean, not only is that the most racist thing you can possibly do, is generalize everyone based upon their skin color or ethnicity or whatever anyway. It also means that it's impossible for you to see people as individuals. So you can't look at the wants and cares and needs of all of these people individually and what they care about. You know, like just because someone's Hispanic, like some random person living in, like, I don't know, South Florida or whatever, has different issues in their life that they care about than someone Hispanic that lives in, like San Francisco or something like that in California. Like, you have to treat people as individuals, not as groups. Think about the things that people care about and then appeal to them in that fashion. Obviously, as you say, it's more of a left-wing problem, but it's infiltrated the Democratic Party. Not all of them are like that. Some of them have tried to push away against it, and rightfully so, because it will be the undermining of the party. I think we're seeing it already. It's shaping up now. They're going on that trajectory where many of these minority groups who have traditionally never voted for a Republican, for whatever reason that may be, are now deciding that, that's something that they are interested in doing, do want to do, because obviously the Republican message appeals to them. They've cast a broad net in that regard.
Yeah. And you saw that with so many like rappers. Come on, I don't know who rappers are, but many of them came out in support of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And like we said, record support for Donald Trump from all minority groups. So something's not working in the left, is it?
No, and it's something they have to figure out if they want to stop this sort of decline that they're on with a lot of these traditional voters that have traditionally voted for them for a long time. So let's move on. So we've got this from Washington Examiner, and there's quite a lot to talk about on here, but I'll just give you the first three paragraphs of what happened and then a little bit. So for anyone that isn't familiar with all of this, so Carter Page sued the FBI director James Comey, fired FBI deputy Andrew McCabe, and the FBI and others involved in an improper foreign intelligence surveillance act snooping on former Trump campaign associate that relied upon British ex-spy Christopher Seale's discredited dossier to obtain approval from the FISA court. The lawsuit was filed against Comey, McCabe, the Bureau, the Justice Department, fired Deputy Assistant Director of Counterintelligence Peter Strzok, former FBI lawyer Lisa Page, former Supervisor Intelligence Joseph Pientka, FBI agent Stephen Sommer, and Supervisor Intelligence Analyst Brian Orton, with Page condemning the unjustified and illegal actions and unlawful spying and arguing that the court should award him compensatory and special damages of no less than $75 million. DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz's December 2019 report on FISA abuse concluded that the FBI's investigation was filled with serious missteps and concealed exculpatory information from the FISA court. Horowitz criticized the Bureau for at least 17 significant errors and omissions discovered in the Page FISA applications spanning from fall 2016 to summer 2017. The FISA filings relied upon salacious, unverified, and now discredited dossier compiled by Steele, who'd been hired by Fusion GPS, which in turn was hired by Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign and the Democratic National Committee through the Perkins Coie law firm. So it's good to see this because it will hit them where it hurts. These people like Comey have not really faced any sort of accountability for what they did. We've seen from the documents that have been revealed from the Horowitz report that they lied on these various warrants, and they lied specifically about Carter Page in order to the FISA court in order to spy on him, or surveillance as they would call it, but if they're doing it illegally, it's spy. And he's coming back for them now, and again, silence from the mainstream media. You won't hear about this from anyone. Even Fox News don't even report on this kind of stuff anymore.
No, exactly. And it's kind of it's interesting you mentioned the mainstream media because it's a symptom of the same malice, isn't it? Because what you have is you have these people, they go to university, they have a left-wing professor, and they turn around and they teach the students to hate America. They teach the students that they're wrong for being right. They teach this critical race theory. It's awful. And then those people go on. They join the FBI. They join the mainstream media, and they have this kind of subliminal left-wing kind of thought that's built into them. Their entire way they frame the world is through left-wing thought. And so when someone like Donald Trump comes in saying things that really resonate with real people, you have these left-wingers, they suddenly spring into action, don't they? And it's really sad because you like to think you can trust the FBI. I think you can trust the mainstream media. What I'm saying is let's be open to the possibility that the same bias that is so evident in the mainstream media can actually be present in the FBI because the people who work there are produced from the same system of the mainstream media. To me, it seems fairly simple.
Yeah, certainly. And, really, I think what you see here with the FBI, it's the establishment who obviously wanted to stop Trump, have gone against Trump in every possible way that they can. They don't really care how much of their power they abuse. And as you say, many of these people very easily rationalize to themselves that what they're doing is the right thing, right? Because they have this implicit bias, left-wing bias, because they've come through this kind of elitist system, going to these same schools and universities, colleges. And then they become the pawns, and we've seen that already. One of the FBI agents, has charges now against him. And I think he even pleaded guilty. He's going to prison because he lied on these warrants. So all of these things that Trump was talking about, saying, oh, this is a witch hunt and they're just coming after me to get to you and all of this, and it's the establishment and even the intelligence communities are against him and working against America. He's being vindicated on this because now these documents are coming out and it shows that all of these people acted just with complete disregard for the law, and it was just a mission to get rid of Trump, and that was it.
Absolutely, that's the thing. It's a mission, and one thing as well. It's interesting you mentioned people going to jail, Ryan, because another group of people going to jail could be the people who influenced the election. So, as always, we're going to our fraud update now, and we've got here an article from William Jacobson of Legal Insurrection. It's news on the Pennsylvania state judge upholding a halt to the certification of the election and finding that mail-in balloting probably violates the Pennsylvania Constitution. So Pennsylvania state court judge has issued a preliminary injunction preventing Pennsylvania from taking any further steps to perfect its certification of the election, including but not limited to appointment of electors and transmission of necessary paperwork to the Electoral College, pending further court hearings and rulings. The ruling upholds an injunction from earlier in the week, and it's significant because of the findings made in the opinion released tonight. And there's a link to it on the website. The case has been made somewhat under the radar. It doesn't involve claims of fraud. It appears a pretty straightforward legal argument. It's not the federal court case that has received a lot of press attention and in which the Third Circuit Court of Appeals denied relief. The issue in this case is whether the legislative expansion of absentee balloting to broad mail-in balloting violated the Pennsylvania Constitution. It's not clear what the relief would be. The petitioners seek to preclude the Secretary of State from transmitting the certification or otherwise perfecting the Electoral College selections. So if you look in the mainstream media this week, what you'll see when it comes to Pennsylvania is a lot of noise about Trump's so-called defeat this week in getting the certification revoked. But that's a completely different topic. You want to ignore that. What you see here, it's a much less reported on legal victory. And isn't it incredible, Ryan, that we're seeing a judge find that mail-in balloting probably violates the Pennsylvania Constitution, and potentially we're talking about 700,000 mail-in votes being completely dismissed.
It is incredible, and this could have been avoided if we did not end up in this partisan battle over mail-in votes before the election, because as the judge quite rightly says, what they did by expanding the mail-in voting goes against the Pennsylvania Constitution. And what they've this isn't even like a case that's been brought forward with regards to fraud or anything like that. This is just a legal case talking about the law in Pennsylvania saying that they can't do this. And this was Trump brought this case before the election, before any voting, or when some voting was taking place before the actual election day earlier this year. And there was a deadlock in the Supreme Court. And obviously they said, we'll come back to this if we need to later on. But now you've got this sort of really horrible situation because many, many people, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have voted, and many of them have obviously voted, in good faith. They wanted to cast their vote. They voted by mail. It now turns out that it was actually unconstitutional the way that they did it. But can you really blame them? Do we really want to disenfranchise hundreds of thousands of voters? This could have been avoided. This could have been avoided if they just made a clear decision on this before the election like Trump wanted to. Instead, they kicked the can down the road, and here we are now facing this awful dilemma where we have to think about, well, technically the law says that all of these people's votes should be thrown out. But what it does do anyway, most importantly, is it blocks the certification for now of the votes, and it buys Trump a bit more time in terms, because obviously, as we've said, to overturn certification is obviously a bit harder than if they're just not certified in the first place. There are more paths there for him. So this is the main thing from this, is that it blocks the certification for now. But also what's interesting is, again, no one's talking about this. You don't find this anywhere. You really got to go through a bunch of rabbit holes just to find someone even talking about this, to even have a look at the opinion and read through it. And of course, we'll put the link to this in the description so you can go and read this opinion yourself, because it's actually really interesting and very compelling what's actually going on here.
Absolutely. And with that being said, we think that's time for this week. This day even. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Please do subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Please do leave a like and drop a comment. Tell us what you thought of any of these 3 issues down below. Until next time, thanks so much, guys. Oh, and we have a live stream on Sunday. What was the time? We got it tomorrow, isn't it? But
yes.
on Sunday, what was the time?
1 p.m. Eastern time.
1 p.m. Eastern time. Yes, around then. So join in, tune in, and tell us your opinion. Until next time, guys.